This is your 20-minute podcast where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Now, here's your host, David Brower.
This is David Brower with your 20-minute podcast, and our special guest is Chalky White, Bernard Chalky White, to be more precisely, universally known as Chalky. He's an almost 40-year renowned and highly successful snow ski instructor and the #1 best-selling author of his ski instruction book, The 7 Secrets of Skiing. He's someone that despises procrastination and is one who never stops wanting to help others, which is a major reason why he's now a motivational keynote speaker throughout corporate, college, and school audiences throughout America. And he presents his speech, How to Say Nay to Your Naysayers and Have the Last Laugh. I love that, man. So welcome aboard. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, David. Appreciate your time.
So my first question is, how did you get the name Chalky?
Well, it's a long story. It's about 50-odd years ago now when I first became a police cadet. I won't use his exact words because they might not be good to put on air. But it was a drill sergeant who was, when I was in a gymnasium with all the other people that had just joined the cadets as well. He was asking everybody their names, and he got to me and he said, using some words, as I said, I can't really use here. What's your name? So I said, White, sir. He said, it's not sir, it's something sergeant. I went and I almost said the bad word back to him, but I thought I'd better not. And then I told him my name was White, and he said, boys, announcing to all the others, we've got a Chalky White. And of course, I've been stuck with that ever since. But it's come in useful, certainly in the ski business, I think, because I don't know of another Chalky in the ski business.
Boy, isn't that the truth? And it's got to come in handy, too, when all your motivational speeches all over where it catches people attention right away.
That's right. Well, people get me mixed up with the other guy that's got the same name from Empire Boardwalk, I think it's called. But I've been around a lot longer than him, I'm maybe sorry to say.
There you go. So your speech, How to Say Nay to Your Naysayers and Have the Last Laugh. What is a naysayer, I guess, first and foremost?
Well, pretty simple, really. Just somebody that just consistently says no to you, says you can't do this and you can't do that. And that can obviously be any third party. In my case, my first big one, of course, was my father. But of course, the biggest naysayer in our lives is ourselves. You know, we doubt ourselves whether we can do something. And the game, of course, down the years for me and others has been how to overcome those doubts and naysayers.
And we are our own worst enemy at times, aren't we?
Certainly are. I mean, I'm glad to say we're going to talk about here a little bit. I've managed to overcome an awful lot of that down the years and managed to push through and achieve a lot of my goals and realize a lot of my dreams.
Good for you. Good for you. So you grew up in a tough family environment and ended up being a London Bobby from England, and then stepped onto the world stage as a ski instructor. How did you make those? First of all, it had to be very challenging growing up in that environment, and I say that because been there, done that, so I can relate. And how did you go from that into the different kind of experiences to put you on the world map?
Well, as you you just said there, I'm actually from an abusive family, an abusive father that used to just beat me all the time. And he, as I said, he was my greatest naysayer in my life, constantly tell me that I would never, ever achieve anything or go anywhere in life at all. And of course, that goes on and on for years and years, which it did. And of course, you start to believe some of that stuff.
Right.
But what he didn't actually manage to do was actually kill my dreams, which were basically, really, I suppose, to be involved in sports in some way and also in travel, which I'm glad to say I've managed to do an awful lot of both now, especially having been in the ski world now for over 40 years. And I've lived and worked in 11 different countries now.
Wow, that is dreams on steroids, my friend. That's that's like there's no naysayers out there anymore. It's just you pushing through and finding another dream and another dream and another dream and touching people along the way. It sounds like.
Well, yeah, that's actually true. But believe me, there's been plenty of naysayers through the years, as perhaps we'll discuss here in a little while.
Absolutely right. So let's talk about some of those naysayers and who stumbled you along the way, and I guess we'll find out a lot about that in your memoir that's coming out. Do they keep farm animals up here? When's that going to be published?
Well, I'm not quite sure, of course, when I can't actually put a time on that just as yet. I'm almost finished the writing of the book, and I've got some very good contacts that are going to help me to get it published. And it might even end up being self-published, not quite sure yet, but I've got some good contacts for publishers too. If there's publishers out there that be interested in talking to me, I'd love to talk to them naturally.
Naturally, absolutely right. So is that memoir going to be filled with these kinds of stories about naysayers and all the what-if possibilities that you've run into through your life?
Absolutely. I mean, I've even been writing some of it this morning, and stories, from my childhood, from my police career, and also from my ski instructing career. When people have told me no, that a lot of those stories are going to be in the book. And what I do is follow up each short story with a takeaway. What can you take away from this story? How might it be able to help you as the reader? And it's all based around something that I came up with a long time ago called my what if factor. The what if factor is two questions. What if I don't, and what if I do? And the first question I've tended down the years to ask myself is, what if I don't? What if I don't follow through and do this? What would be the repercussions, the consequences of that for me? And of course, when you ask that question, you tend to come up with all kinds of answers that you really, really don't like, especially if it's a major dream or a major goal that you're trying to achieve. But in their way, they can be a very positive thing, because they make you want to ask the opposite question. What if I do follow through? What if I do follow through and I do this? Well, just talking about my ski career, this question came up after somebody said to me once, Chalky, and again, I won't use the vernacular, he said, Chalky, you'll never be a ski instructor as long as you have a hole where the sun doesn't shine.
Gotcha.
And it was then I really started to ask the what if I don't, what if I do questions. And when I asked what if I don't, well, it was, if you don't follow through, you'll very quickly be back in England not doing the things that you really want to do. You won't become a ski instructor, and you won't travel. You won't be involved in sports. And the biggest thing of all, if you don't follow through and try and actually become a ski instructor, the biggest word in the end is regret.
Yeah.
That one word that I think most of us despise in our lives, really.
No question about it. And I think the other thing is that when you spend some time with the what if I don't question, oftentimes I would think you end up feeding the naysayers and satisfying their wish for you, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I mean, some of these people, of course, that are naysayers do think they have, your well-being in mind. But of course, what they don't also realize is that by keep on saying what they're saying, they could in fact kill a dream if somebody doesn't have the courage to actually follow through, and they just stick and as many people unfortunately do. And obviously, part of my job as a motivational speaker and an author is to try and persuade people that don't listen to what these other people tell you. Just don't listen, and never give up on something that is your dream, that you believe that you should actually be able to achieve.
So when you're doing your public speaking, my assumption is that you spend a lot of time talking about what if you do.
Yeah, exactly. Talk about, what if you do? I mean, and what are the repercussions if you do? Again, for example, I can use a story of when I was going to just about to publish my ski instruction book, The 7 Secrets of Skiing. And I went to see my ski school director, and I said to him, how about I use a couple of the ski instructors for the photographs in my book for demonstrations? He said, that's a great idea, but you shouldn't be in them. I said, why is that? He said, because you don't ski well enough. Now, I just spent 4 years writing this book, and obviously I went away from there slightly crestfallen.
Right.
And then I started speaking to others, and I was at the stage there where I could have just thrown the manuscript in the drawer and it could have still been collecting dust now. But what I started to ask myself, what if I don't follow through? And what if getting back to your question, what if I do follow through? And that's when I decided to find my own instructors. And I found 3 instructors that were all friends of mine, and all 3 were world champion synchronized skiing.
Wow.
So they were the demonstrations in my book, plus me. And after the photographs were taken, the lady who took the photographs was also an examiner of ski instructors for their exams. And she came to me not knowing about my conversation with the ski school director, who said I shouldn't be in the photos. And she said, your demonstrations, I thought, were just as good as the other 3. And in fact, your hand and arm carriage when you ski is better than the other 3. So I followed through, published the book. Glad to say the rest is history. And on Amazon.com, in its category, it went to number 1.
I just got goosebumps on that story, man. I love stuff like that. When something like that happens and you follow through, what if I do? And all of a sudden, out of the blue, there's a mirror that says, hey, guess what, Chalky? You did the right thing, and here's why.
Yeah. And David, if I might, I'll tell you a short story from back in my police career about, simply taking opportunities that are thrown up in front of you that
you bet.
You might not take. I was a very young man. I was only 21 or something like that in 1968. And I was on an emergency car, like you call a 911 car in America here.
Okay.
And this call came out as the sounds of a dying cat. Now, remember, we were on an emergency car. We didn't have to take that call. Nothing else was happening much. So we did take the call, and we drove out there very quietly because it was, it was an animal in distress, but it wasn't a human in distress. So we get out there, and we're taken into this backyard, and there's a bush. And lady says, under that bush, it sounds like it's a Siamese cat under there, and it sounds like it's in dreadful pain. So I go under there, and I've just got a normal kind of a flashlight, and I look around, and I didn't see anything. And I came out, I said, I think it must have disappeared. And all of a sudden, we hear it again. So this time I go back in, but this time I've got a great big seek and search flashlight, really bright thing. And I pointed, and I went, wow, it's not a dying cat at all. It's a baby.
Oh, my God.
And the baby still had the umbilical cord and the placenta still attached. And, of course, it was still completely covered in blood because it had only just been born.
Yeah.
And I grabbed it and I just shouted, hospital, hospital, as fast as I can go, as fast as we can go. So, well, the really good news was that the baby's life was saved. So the moral of this story, as far as I'm concerned, is can there be anything greater? Because I took that opportunity, can there be anything greater than at least helping to save the life of another human being? And I really think not.
I think not, too, yeah.
I mean, the unfortunate part about it was that the mother was a very young girl, and she never got the baby back. But the very good news is that, and I completely lost trace of the baby. Can't even remember what sex it was. But if that baby did live, I know that it lived, and it would be almost 50 years old now.
Wow.
So, and it's probably got a family of its own and all the rest of it, the wonderful things that go with that. So obviously, again, it's all about what if I hadn't taken that opportunity. It all goes back to what if again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when opportunities are thrown up, even if we think, it might not be much as we can, take those opportunities and because wonderful things can happen, just as they did it in that instance there.
Wow, that's a wonderful story and a perfect example of the what if I do. When something presents itself to you, and like you say, screaming cat, not interested, But then you followed through. You say, well, what if we do this? And you go and you find, and the story is like beyond your imagination.
That's right. I mean, it's just obviously something that's indelibly imprinted on my mind.
Boy, no kidding. No kidding. That's my son's a firefighter, so I was thinking about him and when he goes on those kinds of calls and those kinds of things. I'm gonna share that story with him tonight. That's a wonderful story, Chalky. Thanks for sharing that with us.
In fact, if you'd like to have it, I'll send you that as an extract from my book, and it's also I can actually send the printed version of that story too, if you'd like to have it.
That would be fabulous. Yeah, I and he would both cherish that. Thank you for the offer of that. So let's talk about your book a little bit, the seven Secrets of Skiing. We've touched on that. It's a best-selling book. It's available on Amazon and other places. How long has that book been out?
It came out in 2011.
Okay.
But it's still very current, and I think it will remain current for a long time because it's all based around physics and physics of skiing, and none of us can actually really argue with that. If we're not doing certain things, then certain things won't happen. But if we do, that's when we start to adhere to physics. That's when our skiing can really improve. By the way, yes, it can be got as a Kindle on Amazon, but also on my website, which is www. The 7 Secrets of Skiing with the number 7, the 7 Secrets of Skiing. People can get that as a PDF.
And you can also find out about skiing with you all over the world, about your speaking engagements, because your goal really is to speak to as many corporate school kids, as many people around the world as you possibly can, right? Yeah,
college students, it would be ideal for them, and corporations, because you get salespeople that are kind of sitting there and they're self-doubting them, there's a lot of self-doubt in their lives. Well, should I pick up the phone and talk to this guy I don't really want to talk to at all? And if they do, again, taking an opportunity, they could end up making the sale of the year.
Absolutely.
Just overcome their fears. The only thing to fear is fear itself, and pick up the phone, then all kinds of wonderful things could happen. And that's where the what if I don't, what if I do factor does really come in for people like salespeople. The what if factors work for me over and over and over again in so many different situations down the years. If I hadn't used it, maybe I would have quit. I mean, I was once told that I wouldn't make it as a fully certified ski instructor because I was the wrong body shape, because I happened to have bandy legs, as we call them in England. And I could have quit right there after failing 3 exams in Scotland, the full certification up there. And it's another instance where the what-if factor got me through and sent me to New Zealand, where I eventually did pass my full certification after making 8 attempts to pass 3 exams.
Wow.
And eventually I got there, and I've now been fully certified for a very, very long time.
And procrastination is no longer in your vocabulary.
Try not to be,
Yeah.
Obviously we're all tempted, aren't we? We're all tempted all the time to procrastinate, but at the end of the day, you should say to yourself, well, what if I don't actually follow through with this? What's going to happen then? And again, that nasty word regret, and none of us really wants that at all.
One final question. When you do your corporate speaking, and I'm sure you get a lot of feedback, standing ovations, those kinds of things, do you have a favorite story or a favorite experience of that?
Well, certainly when I tell the dying cat story, people like that.
Yep.
But at the end of it all, if I might finish with this, I mean, there's a finish which I definitely get ovations for. I'm not going to say they're standing necessarily, but definitely ovations. I sing a song at the end of it. If you'd like a little piece of that,
yeah.
I'll sing it for you a cappella.
Yeah, please do.
Because it's a wonderful world and you never want to quit, I'm going to finish with this. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Folks, if you want to learn more about Chalky White, you can ski the world with him. You can find out about his speaking engagements. You can get his book, The 7 Secrets of Skiing, all on his website, the 7 with the number 7, the 7 Secrets of Skiing.com. Chalky, it's been a real treat, man. Thank you.
Might I be able to just give out my cell number, please, David?
You bet.
Okay, my cell number is a US number, 970-390-6267. Thank you very much, David. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and Thank you for having me on your podcast.
You're very welcome. You've been listening to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower and our special guest, Chalky White.
Until next time, don't forget to download your free audiobook at audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast. That's audibletrial.com/your 20-minute podcast for your free audiobook. And thanks for listening to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower.